What's going on, everybody? Josh Calloway here with all Sooners alongside by John Hoover, Ryan Chapman, back at the stadium. We are back. Football is back. The Brent Venables era kicked off finally on Saturday after the longest offseason of all time. We finally got a real-life game today. Oklahoma beating UTEP 45-13 in the first game of the Brent Venables era. UTEP, we talked about it all week, not very good. Oklahoma made them look like they weren't very good. An easy win for the Sooners today. Brent Venables 1-0.
You know, he got emotional in the press conference, or not the press conference, but the post-game locker room. He started handing out game balls to everybody, including Joe Castiglione, President Joe Harris. He said, they hired me. They didn't have to do that. This is Oklahoma. So he talked about himself getting emotional. The players talked about how cool it was to see him kind of drop that tough coach facade and drop the curtain a little bit and just see kind of the inside of Brent Venables, peel it back a little bit. So I thought that was cool. It meant something to him. You know, he's not just another coach that wants to come out here and coach football and make a bunch of money. Put his name up on the wall. He's a guy that this really means something to him. So it was cool to see and to talk to the players certainly about that interaction and that insight.
Yeah, and two, we found out that Dabo Swinney called him this morning, and Brent Venables also almost broke down with us, it felt like, when he was talking about friendship and things like that. Yeah. But we had kind of asked him earlier this week, who are those guys that you've leaned on? And he finally gave us the goods, right? Dabo Swinney's who he called about some last-minute, hey, you know, I'm going to ask advice on how to handle this or that or whatever. Bob Stoops was rolling through at the facility. Brent said he was just there for a fist bump, and I basically said, screw that. I'm going to ask you all the questions I need to ask you. He's leaned on Matt Wells. So Brent Venables, the over-preparer, we knew that. And frankly, he said that today, not really as stressful at certain times as he maybe thought it was, just because he's letting the coordinators do their thing.
Nothing caught him off guard. I asked that question, you know, from the time you got up this morning to the time you walked in for the press conference, what surprised you? He said nothing really. He was prepared.
Yeah, he's ready to go. And to your point earlier, Hoop seems like a guy, and we've known this already, but who really appreciates this opportunity. He had a lot of chance to be a head coach before, never took it, wanted this one. Oklahoma is off to a good start. Let's start with the product on the field. We'll start with the defense, Brent Venables' forte. Obviously, we have very different perspectives when we watch this game. You guys are on the press box, I'm on the field. It seemed to me like the tackling and swarming the football, that was great. How did you feel that looked here first time out?
They finished a lot of tackles. You could tell there was gang tackling at the point of attack, and that was impressive. That's something that, listen, they've tackled more in this preseason than they've tackled in the last 5 years. That's what Teddy Lehman said in the pregame show today. In practice. So the fact is they've worked on this. They're prepared for this. And when, you know, Tulane, goodness, that was last year. Take me back.
Throwback.
I know. When you look for a little bit, for a tiny little bit there, it looked like Tulane was out here, because all of a sudden here comes UTEP and they scored 10 straight points. There. It's like, wait a minute. But, you know, it reminded me of that Tulane game last year. But just the fact that, you know, UTEP is out here trying to – their quarterback was gamey, gutsy, tough, accurate. Oklahoma got its interception on the next to last play of the game, I think, as they were trying to UTEP was trying to cover the spread, so to speak. But no, it was a good defensive effort. You could see it really was important to the guys to play good defense and not just talk about it and not complain about it in the post-game press conference. 6 sacks, 2.5 sacks by Reggie Grimes. He got after today. He said he had a personal kind of a crisis in his family. His grandmother was diagnosed with cancer. She skipped a chemo treatment to come here and watch him. So it meant everything to him to be out here and do that.
Yeah, and started up front, worked its way to the back. One of the big concerns always, right, Brent Venables, this defense coming back, is it too complicated initially? Are you worried about coverage bust, stuff like that? It looked pretty vanilla compared to even what we saw in the spring game. And while UTEP did have some success there, like you mentioned, in the second quarter and in really the fourth quarter after kind of the backups were tossed in, it was all dink and dunk, right? It wasn't like, oh my gosh, there's a wide receiver 30 yards down the field that no one just picked up and Gavin Hardison missed him or stuff like that. So I think that that's all things that Brent Venables and Ted Roof were going to be content with, and both of those guys said they were pretty happy with the coverage on the back end. So basically it's just a foundation to build off of. I doubt we'll see much more as far as exotic blitzes or anything like that next week against Kent State, but a couple weeks from now in Lincoln, that'll be the first test, and then really back here against K-State is when we'll find out a lot about this team.
Yeah, it seemed like a good start to me, and obviously the turnover, like Hoop said, and the sacks, tackles for loss, all that stuff, you got to like all that, but I just like that they were there were some schmacks in this game. Denny Stutzman laid the boom on that one really good one. There's a few other ones. Justin Harrington, I know, got in there. So I think Oklahoma fans are going to really just like that part of it. They seemed physical, which is, I mean, that's been the #1 thing of this entire fall camp is, can the team look physical right away? So far, it seems that way. Let's talk about the offense. Jeff Lebby, his first game. Dillon Gabriel, his first game. Insanely fast start. Yeah. And overall, I mean, a pretty good day, it seems like, after he wasn't kidding about the going fast thing.
3 words. Tempo, tempo, tempo. God. Man, they were going fast. That was, what do you call that? NASCAR offense, turbo offense, Mach 1, whatever you want to call it. They were moving in between plays. Usually, I bet they lead the nation this year. Somebody's done a study about how much time elapses between plays. I bet Oklahoma leads the nation this year. They were going so fast today. A little bit to the defense's detriment. You know, maybe a little bit too fast. You score in 2 plays, and then the next drive you go 3 and out, and the defense is all of a sudden out there for 10, 12 minutes. What was the time of?
At one point in the second quarter, UTEP had the ball for 17.5 minutes to Oklahoma's 5.5 minutes. Yeah. And that's when the Miners really started to move the ball, when you saw the second wave of secondary guys come in. So I don't know if it's something that the Sooners are going to have to deal with all year long, but I don't know how much you lay that at the defense when it's 100 degrees and you're throwing your second stringers in the second quarter of game 1.
Yeah, Dillon Gabriel was fantastic. He was efficient, 233 yards passing, a couple of touchdowns to Braden Willis, but just really commanded the offense, knew exactly what was going on, where to go. A couple of throws weren't on target, but very accurate, I thought, today. And then the running game, man, how do you sum up the running game? Eric Gray with 102 yards, Marcus Major with a couple of touchdowns, including a 6-yarder where he just plowed the entire 22 pile. Looked like a rugby scrum.
I was going to say Javante Barnes.
Javante Barnes
killed a guy, fine, basically.
Yeah. And then Gavin Freeman, freshman from up in Oklahoma City, pops a 46-yard touchdown run in his first collegiate touch. That was awesome. It was great to see.
Yeah, and you could tell that Gavin Freeman, that meant a ton to him. Dillon Gabriel was stoked about that. And look, it'll be one of those things that when this offense is at its best, you might look at Dillon Gabriel's stat line and go, that was kind of pedestrian for what you've come to know of an Oklahoma quarterback. But if they're going to dictate like they did today in the run game, then he's not going to have to do a whole lot. Really, I asked about it in the post game. They just need to mop up penalties and a few of those things, communication on those 2 punts in the second quarter that kind of put the defense behind the 8 ball. And he felt pretty confident that they'd be able to kind of fix that. So we'll see next week.
Yeah, absolutely. As Jeff Lebby said as he was wrapping up his press conference, he said we had 10 drives, 6 touchdowns, a field goal, and 3 punts. That's 3 punts too many. Gotta love that mentality, and that's what they're going to try and do. I thought it was a good start for Oklahoma, both offensively and defensively. Was it perfect? No, but you're insane if you thought it was going to be perfect right away. Just a good start. Oklahoma did what they had to do, rolling UTEP today to get to 1-0. Next up, Kent State. Next Saturday night, we'll be here again back at the stadium before hitting the road in 2 weeks to Lincoln, Nebraska. You know, that one's going to be a lot of fun, of course. We'll see what this team could do as an encore performance next Saturday. AllSooners.com, the place to be. Loads of coverage there. All the post-game reaction from us, the coaches, the players, everybody. Highlights, stories, news, everything that you could want. Podcast is coming up to get our full expounded thoughts on this game. Loads of stuff there for you on allsooners.com. So that's going to be what you want to check out ASAP and stay with us all week as we get up into the next game, Kent State, next Saturday. So that's it for now. For Ryan Chapman and John Hoover, I'm Josh Kelly signing off. We'll see you next Saturday right back here for OU Kent State.